What's up fellas, we're back again for another video, and in this one I'm going to tell you how to avoid getting banned by the bookmakers. So the reason I'm making this video is because it's probably the #1 question that I get asked on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Telegram, my website, email, whatever it may be. People are always asking me, James, how do you avoid getting banned or limited by the bookmakers? Now, if you're new to gambling, if you don't really know sports betting in depth, then you may not know this, but once you start winning a lot of money, and in certain cases when you're not even winning money, the bookmakers that you're betting on, such as Bet365, BetOnline, Betfair, whatever it may be, these bookmakers will ban you or limit you from making a lot of money. And obviously that can be very frustrating as a professional gambler, as you can imagine, right? This is literally how we make our income. So if the bookmakers are not letting me bet, I can't make an income. And obviously I make money outside of that, right? There's many different ways I make money, but it's still a massive hassle because betting is a huge portion of my income. At times in my life, it's been the only portion of my income. And I've still had to go through the bans during those points in my life, right? So it can be very frustrating, but there are ways to avoid it. There are ways to limit the bookmakers limiting you. And I'm going to tell you some of these ways in this video. Now, it's very important to understand that every single bookmaker is different and every single bookmaker has different rules. But it's also important to understand that every single bookmaker follows broad rules and similar concepts, right? So while the techniques I'm going to give you in this video may not work on every single bookmaker exactly the same, the overarching concepts I'm going to give you will work on all bookmakers, and a lot of the techniques will work on a lot of the bookmakers as well, right? So first things first, every time you open up an account, or just anytime you open up a betting account on any website, there is a risk management team inside of that bookmaker, right, that works for that bookmaker, that is managing risks, right? And what that means for them specifically is that they're looking at the players that are betting on these websites, and they're looking for players that make a lot of money or players that are betting smartly, and they're looking to stop those players playing. They're managing the risk, right? If I'm a professional gambler, if I know how to make money from a specific market, well then I'm a risk to that bookmaker, because that bookmaker, the sole goal is to make as much money as possible. Like most businesses in the world, right? The sole goal for any bookmaker is to make as much money as possible. That is literally what they're there to do. So if you have a player like me or anyone else who's good at gambling, who's taking a lot of money from that bookmaker, well then they want to cut ties with you. They want to manage their risk and remove you. If they remove you, they gain an extra $300,000 a year, whatever it may be, right? However much you're earning that year. So every single bookmaker has this risk management team, and it's our job to get around these risk management teams, right? So the risk management team will put players into 2 specific categories, and I've written that up here, right? I hope you can see it. The first category is square and the second category is sharp. And what that means in it's just a gambling terminology. What that means is that if you're a square gambler, then you don't really know what you're doing. And if you're a sharp gambler, then you know what you're doing, right? So everybody who is betting is being monitored by these risk management teams, and they will place you into 2 categories. They'll place you into square or sharp, right? And they may have subcategories within them. I don't know. I've never been that side of the counter. But what I do know is that the bookies are either going to look at you like an idiot, a square, or a smart person, a sharp. And they're gonna try and limit you if you're sharp, and they're gonna allow you to do whatever the hell you want if you're square, right? So what we wanna be telling these bookmakers, or what we're trying to show them, is that we're square, we're not sharp. But we wanna be doing that while still getting money from their platform, which is kind of hard, right? It's very easy for me to show myself as a square gambler if I'm just losing money all the time. That in and of itself tells you I'm a square gambler. Right? If I'm betting for 3 years and I'm losing money every single year, well then I'm a square gambler. If I'm winning money from their platform, they're gonna think I'm a sharp gambler in most cases, right? But there are ways to still win money from a bookmaker account and still tell them that you're square. And what that will do is, it may not prevent them from banning your account entirely, because eventually they're gonna find out you're sharp. If you keep winning money from the bookmaker, they're eventually going to find out, okay, this guy's sharp. Or even if he's not sharp, we think he's square based on our algorithms, but he's won money for 3 years. Let's just ban him. And I have actually had accounts that are losing accounts, but they've still been banned because I'm showing the bookmaker I'm sharp, right? And I've had betting accounts that I've been winning on, and they've still allowed me to continue betting because they've deemed my account as square. So being put into a square category is amazing. If you have a square account, then this is literally gold dust in the betting sphere, right? I've had many square accounts over my lifetime, and it's the best thing ever, right? I've literally had accounts where I've got no limit on my bets on any market. I can bet into a prop market for $50,000. A small liquidity, a low liquidity prop market, and certain bookmakers will let me bet for 50 grand, 30 grand. They will literally let me bet that because they believe I'm square and they believe I'm gonna lose money long term. And then I've had sharp accounts where they won't let me put $20, they won't let me put $10 on a money line, which has high liquidity in, right? So it's very important for you to be perceived as a square. And I'm going to tell you some ways to do that, right? So the first thing you need to understand, the most important thing by far, is there is a period in which when you first open your account, the bookmaker is heavily looking at you more than any other time in your entire account history, right? So I've written it down here, opening account period. So when you open an account, what I mean by that is when you go onto the bookmaker website and you sign up and you open your first account, this is the most important time in your account's history or your account's future. This is the most important time by far. The risk management teams are looking at your account as soon as you open it. They're looking at how much you're depositing. They're looking at what markets you're betting into. They're looking at how much you're betting. They're looking at your first deposit. That's a big one. I know that for a fact. When you're opening your account, this is when you need to be the most careful, and this is when you need to do your most due diligence and try your best to be seen as a square account, not a sharp account. You need to do it throughout the entirety of your account, but most certainly you need to do it even more when you're in the opening account period. So when you're first opening an account, what I would also always say is don't deposit a massive amount of money straight away, right? If you open an account and you deposit $20,000 straight away, instantly you're gonna flag up to the risk management team and they're gonna have their eyes on you, right? It's like walking into a bar or walking into a club. If you walk into a nightclub, the risk management team for the nightclub is what? The security, the bouncers, right? They're trying to manage the risk. They're trying to make sure that there's no fights in the club, no violence, no drugs, etc., etc. When you first walk into the club, the nightclub, the bouncers are looking at you heavily. The security team is eyeing you up, right? But if you've been in the club for 3 hours and you've caused no trouble, well then the bouncers don't really care about you. They've forgotten you're even there, right? It's the exact same thing for the sportsbook. If you walk into a betting, or if you open up a sportsbook and you deposit $20,000 on the first hour that you've opened up the account, instantly the risk management team is going to look at that and go, all right, well this guy's deposited more than we usually see, right? Most people, when they're depositing money, they're depositing $100, $200 for the most part, right? They're depositing $100, they lose it, they deposit another $100. They ain't depositing 20 grand and making a 20 grand bet straight away. That's not common. So if you're doing that, the bookmakers are looking at you going, okay, this guy's a little bit different. Your account flags up. Let's watch this guy closely. So first of all, don't deposit a massive amount of money the day you open your account. Deposit your money in bursts. Deposit $1,000 first, right? Deposit $800. Deposit $843, something like that. If you deposit $843, it shows that you probably don't have a lot of money. It's not a round number, meaning that that's probably all you had in your bank account. And then you're less likely to be flagged up than if you're doing a round number like $20,000. Now, like I said, all of this is based on my personal experience and conversations I've had with people in the industry. There is no one size fits all, right? Maybe there's one betting account that doesn't mind if you deposit four grand on the dot. But maybe there's another betting account that or betting website, that if you deposit 4 grand, they're gonna get really pissed off. But if you deposit $843, like I said, they ain't gonna get pissed off, right? So it's not a one size fits all rule, but we might as well just cover our bases as much as possible. And then that is gonna lead you to have a better chance in maintaining your account's longevity. So bringing it back home, the opening account period is the most important thing. Don't deposit a massive amount straight away. Deposit over a few days. When you deposit, make a bet. Don't make a massive bet. Don't make a 10 grand bet. Make a parlay, right? Bet a big parlay as soon as you open up your account. Because what does that show to the bookmakers, right? Parlays, you can make money on parlays in sports betting, right? Parlays are very profitable, but 8-team parlays, 10-leg parlays, these are very hard to hit. And what this shows to the bookmakers is that you're probably a square gambler. Or if you're betting an 8-leg parlay on the day you open your account, you probably don't know what you're doing, right? Well, at least that's what the bookmaker's algorithm thinks. You don't know what you're doing. And so you're showing yourself as a square better as soon as you open up your account, which is a definite point where they're looking at your account, right? Definitely. So the best thing you can do is make yourself seem like a square, and one of the ways to do that is bet an 8-leg parlay, bet a 10-leg parlay. This is gonna signify that you're a square, and it's gonna allow your account to be open for longer. Another thing I've wrote down here is to bet into the closing line, right? So we'll move on from the opening account period now. We understand that the first things first, when we open our account, that's the most important time, right? I know it can be very, very tempting to place a massive bet when you first open your account. If you want to place a 10 grand bet and you've been limited on most bookmakers, so you need to open up a new bookmaker. You open up a new one, you want to place that 10 grand bet straight away. I'm telling you now, it's not worth the risk of that account getting instantly banned. It's not worth the risk, right? There'll be another 10 grand bet you want to place, or just open 10 accounts and place 1 grand on each. There's been many, many times in my career where I've been too greedy. I've opened up an account, I've placed a big bet initially on a decent line. It looks like I know what I'm doing. I haven't placed any parlays or anything like that. I haven't done anything to show I'm square. And then instantly, the bookmaker will just reject that bet. They're like, I ain't taking a 10 grand bet off a new account. I don't know who you are. And now instantly my account's flagged up and I can't ever place big money on that account. I can't tell you how many times I've done that, and I've still made the mistake of doing it again, because like maybe I'll do it a year later and I'll just forget or just be greedy, right? So I can't stress this point enough. The opening account period is the most important. But now we're moving on. So we spoke about big parlays. That can be good no matter the time, right? Betting on big parlays signifies that you don't know what you're doing. And so it's always a good thing to do. I always mix in parlays. I bet on parlays. I bet on long shot parlays. I'm profitable on long shot parlays, right? But it signifies to the bookmaker that I'm not, even though I am. So it can help your account stay open for longer. I know for a fact that me betting on parlays, long shot parlays, definitely helps my account stay open for longer, and has helped me in the past and will continue to help me in the future. And it's also good for the mental side of the game, which is a whole nother conversation. But most certainly, this is a good tactic to use when you're making your account stay open for longer, or when you want to do that. Also, I'll say that you don't need to be putting 10 grand on these big parlays, right? If your normal bet is 1 grand, just put $20 on a parlay, put $50 on a parlay, put $15 on a parlay, right? You don't need to be betting a massive amount of money on these parlays, but at least you're betting on the parlays and you are showing the bookmakers that you don't know what you're doing, right? Or you're trying to. Another thing to do is bet into the closing line. Now, a lot of times if I want to get a big amount of money down, I'll have to bet into the closing line, or at least the line that is closer to the event happening, right? Because the liquidity is higher, it's easier to get money down. So just naturally, sometimes I have to bet into the closing line or close to the closing line. But I'm always getting my money down throughout the week. So I'm trying to put money down to beat the line, because you're gonna earn a lot more money if you beat the line, right? If you've got CLV on your bets, inherently you're gonna earn more money. If I'm betting on a plus 170 for $100, I've earned $170. If I'm betting on a plus 150, when the match actually happens, well, then I'm only earning $150 profit, right? So inherently CLV gives you more money, and the bookmakers don't want you to make more money. So if you're getting CLV, i.e. if you're betting early in the week, before the event's gonna happen, before the match is taking place, before the fight's taking place, whatever sport you bet on, and you're consistently beating the closing line, you're gonna flag up to the bookmaker eventually. And the bookmaker's gonna go, all right, this guy's beating the closing line all the time. He obviously knows what he's doing. Let's limit him. Let's ban him. Let's take a closer look at him. And now you're being watched. Even if they haven't limited you, you're being watched now. It's gonna be harder for you to bet. So what I will say is bet into the closing line. It's just another thing you can do that will potentially help your account stay open for longer. And what I mean by betting into the closing line is bet right before the match is gonna happen. So I bet on MMA for a living. That's the main sport that I bet on. I do bet on other sports as well, but I don't originate in those sports. I follow people on those sports, right? I follow professionals. I bet on MMA personally, based on my own research. And you know, what I will do, oftentimes, like I said, if I'm putting a big amount of money down, I have to bet into the closing line at points anyway. But what I would do if I wanted to show my account as being square is I'd wait until the fight was happening, and maybe a minute before the fight, 2 minutes before the fight, I'll place a bet on that fight. And what's that signifying to the bookmaker is that you're a square. Why is it signifying you're a square? Well, first of all, you may have not wanted to bet on this, and your FOMO, right before the match is going to happen, is telling you to bet on this, right? And what that signifies is that you're a square, right? Because if you're betting out of fear of missing out, that's what FOMO means, right? For all those of you who don't know. If you're betting out of fear and betting just because you want action down, you're obviously a square, right? You ain't betting to make money, so you ain't a sharp gambler. You're literally sitting on your phone, watching the event, and as soon as the event's gonna happen, all right, fuck it, I'll just have a bet now. Whereas you may have not done that before, but you don't wanna miss out, so you're betting on it. That signifies that you're a square. Another reason why it's good to bet into the closing line for account longevity is because when it's close to the closing line, right, the bookmakers are happy with, well, for the most part, the bookmakers are happy with what odds they are allowing to the public. If you bet on an event 2 weeks before it happens, you could be betting on a wildly inaccurate line, right? But closer to the closing line, closer to the time the event happens, closer to the time the match happens, the line is more accurate because the market has had more time to even out the lines to make them more accurate. So the bookmaker is happy to take bets closer to the closing line. That's why if you want to put big money down, sometimes you have to wait to the closing line because the bookmaker is so happy with the odds that they are releasing at this time that they will take your bets. So if you're always betting into the closing line or often betting into the closing line, it shows the bookmaker that you ain't trying to get an edge on them because you are betting into lines that are fairly accurate or should be accurate, right? Because most of the time, the closing line is as accurate as the line will ever be. Not all of the time, but most of the time. So the bookmaker's gonna see that and go, yeah, this guy's not trying to get an edge on us. He ain't betting 2 weeks in advance because he knows the line's off. He ain't trying to beat the line. He ain't trying to get CLV. He's betting into the closing line. We'll let him do that. Especially if you ain't putting big amounts of money on, because then they know this guy's betting a $400 bet and he's doing it right before the match happens. Or this guy's betting a $40 bet and we can do low odds to trick, low amount of money to trick them. The bookmakers are like, oh, this guy's betting into the closing line with a $20 bet. He's obviously not doing it because of liquidity, because it's only a $20 bet. He's literally just doing it because he doesn't know what he's doing. He's a square better and he's waited all this time to make a bet. So this is just another thing we can do. Bet into the closing line. It has a lot of benefits. And like I said, guys, and I want to keep mentioning this, all of these techniques, they ain't going to work exactly the same on each bookie, right? I've done things perfectly and still been banned because at the end of the day, I'm still trying to make money, right? So I'm not only betting stupidly, but I am mixing these stupid things in where I can to avoid being banned and helping my account stay open for longer, right? The next thing we can do is chase losses. Now, the worst thing you can do in sports betting is chase your losses. I've literally made videos on this channel telling you do not chase your losses. It is going to be the end of you, right? At some point, it's going to be the end of you. But chasing your losses is very, very beneficial to keep your account open for longer. And it's crazy, you know, like the more I'm speaking about this in this video, just shows you how immoral these bookmakers are. They love for you to do all of these stupid things, and if you do these stupid things, they will let you lose more money and more money and more money. If you start doing smart things, they're going to ban you straight away. It's absolutely disgusting, absolutely immoral. That's why I'm happy to make videos like this to tell you how to beat the algorithm. So yeah, chase your losses, boys. And what that means is that if your bet loses, instantly, as soon as it loses, as soon as it is graded as a loss on the bookmaker account, bet on something else, right? What this signifies to the bookmaker is that you're chasing your losses. And it's one of the worst things you can do in sports betting. Only squares chase their losses. Now, obviously, emotions can get into anyone, and I'm sure there's a lot of sharps that have chased their losses. I have chased my losses at times when I felt like I was sharp in that period. So it's definitely, you know, not only squares who do this, but, you know, for the most part, and I don't do it anymore, for the most part, chasing your losses will be seen by the bookmakers as very square. So the algorithm will realize that, okay, at 1 p.m. this guy's bet was graded as a loss, and at 1:01 p.m. they placed another bet on, right? So now the bookmaker's algorithm is saying, this guy don't know what he's doing, because he ain't betting because he wants to bet, he's just betting because he lost, which is telling the bookmaker that you don't know what you're doing. And that's what we're trying to signify, right? That we don't know what we're doing. So chasing losses can be a good thing. And like I said, boys, we don't have to spend loads of money doing this. If we have a $250 bet that loses, then 1 minute later we place a $20 bet. We don't care about $20, right? I'd pay $20 and $10 on a parlay and $40 on a closing line bet. I'd pay this money for my account to last longer. I would, if I had a golden account, right? If someone had an account that was golden, meaning that I can bet whatever I want on it, I would pay them 20 grand for that account, right? And I'm not gonna say I have done, but let me tell you something now. In the sports betting game, especially over in the UK, you know, in America, maybe different, especially in the UK, there is a lot of account selling going on, right? I know for a fact that people are selling accounts that are perceived to be square to sharp gamblers, and those accounts can go for a lot of money. Now, obviously, there's many factors depending on the account age, where the account's based, how much the account has lost over the lifetime, etc., etc. But there's a lot of money traded every day from sharp gamblers, and they're buying accounts off square gamblers. So the reason I mention that is because I don't care about placing $20 on a parlay and losing it, or placing whatever the equivalent is for you, placing $200 on a closing line bet, chasing my losses with $200. It is worth that money for me to have a good account, because as I said, some of these good accounts go for thousands of dollars, even more than that. So I'm happy to place $20 bets, $500 bets, $200 bets every now and then in hopes that my account's gonna last longer. And we're always trying to earn money as well, right? So when I'm saying bet on big parlays, I'm not saying bet on parlays that you know is definitely gonna lose. Like bet on an 8-teamer that you think is gonna win. Of course, like you ain't gonna bet on bets that you're gonna lose, and it still might win, right? Still try and put plus EV legs in the parlays. When you're chasing your losses, still try and place a plus EV bet when you're chasing that loss, right? Still bet on a line that you think is inaccurate. I ain't saying place the most stupid bet of all time, but doing these things, chasing losses, betting on big parlays, will signify to the bookmakers that you're square, whether the bet wins or loses. This is not about whether the bet wins or loses. Although that is a separate topic that we can discuss that heavily affects, and ultimately the main thing that affects your account longevity, but maybe I'll make that in another video. The last thing I want to speak about, or one of the last things, is stale lines and ink lines, and what I mean by ink is inaccurate, right? It really shouldn't be ink, it should be ina, but inact. But anyway, so stale lines, if you don't know, are lines that are different from the rest of the market, right? Let's say most of the market has a match listed at -110 apiece. But earlier in the week, one fighter or one team, whatever it may be, was -150. But now the market is adjusted, it's -110, right? But let's say there was one bookmaker, and you get this all the time. One bookmaker was very slow to update their odds, and they still had that team or that fighter at -150, and the other team was +125, right? Let's just say that was the case. Well, then what a lot of people would do, right? A lot of people that don't really know the game truly would see that I can get +120 on that book, but only -110 on every other book. Let me bet on that line. That's what we call a stale line, because the bookmaker, it's old, it's an old line, old/stale, right? The bookmaker hasn't adjusted their line yet. The bookmaker really should have seen that the market's moved and changed the line, but some bookmakers are slow, especially depending on what market you're betting in. Some bookmakers are extremely slow, so what a normal person would do, a square person, would just bet on that line. Oh, +120, you know, it's great, it's a better line. But if you do that, you're at risk of getting your account flagged. Your account is going to be looked at more heavily now, because it doesn't signify that you're a sharp bettor, but what it does say to the bookmakers is that, all right, this guy may be trying to take advantage of us. Because oftentimes what will happen is that they will accept your bet at +120, and then the algorithm will have a look at the odds and the rest of the market, instantly change that line from +120 to -110, and it isn't actually you that moved the line, it's the rest of the market, but they were signified to move it based on your bet. I've had this many, many times over my career, where I'll place a bet and they reject the bet, and then they move the line, and then they allow me to place the bet, right? Meaning that in real time, these bookmakers are looking at the rest of the market to find out what the market odds are. So if you're going against the market odds and placing bets on inaccurate and stale lines, then the bookmaker is just going to know that, all right, maybe this guy's not sharp, but he definitely knows a little bit more than a regular Joe. Let's look at his account a little bit more. Let's study him a little bit more. And now you're back in this opening account period. When you may have had your account for 1 year, and now you've taken yourself back a whole year, you're in the opening account period. Now you have to really pay attention to what you're betting on. You can't bet what you usually bet because you don't want to get banned. Like, it's just a hassle, and I wouldn't waste it, right? If you're betting a plus 120 instead of plus 100, do you really want to get that small bit of extra money and risk your account being banned quicker? Because I definitely don't. Another thing is betting on inaccurate lines, right? So what I mean by inaccurate line is that I should have wrote bookie errors, right? It's not really an inaccurate line. That could be, I mean, it is an inaccurate line, but I usually don't word it like that. Inaccurate line, what I say is usually just when a line is off market wide. What I mean is an error line. Let me write that down now, right? So error line, right? And what I mean by that is every now and then, this is different from a stale line. Every now and then you'll see a bookmaker makes a massive error, right? And it's not because the market's moved and they haven't updated it, aka a stale line. It's literally because the line should be plus 300, but for whatever reason, the bookmaker has lined it at minus 300. They've literally just made a mistake on what they've typed in. This happens time and time again. It's ridiculous. These are meant to be multi-billion-dollar companies and they can't even get lines right. They can't even type it in. This happens very, very regularly. Basically every single week, probably every single day. I don't know all the markets, right? There's literally hundreds of different markets you can bet on. But every single week, I know for a fact, in MMA market, there's at least 1 or 2 bookies that have inaccurately or made an error on the line. So let's say it's plus 300, but it should be minus 300, right? Idiot gamblers will bet on that and say, oh, plus 300, you know, I hope they honor it. Now, the thing about that is that instantly you're going to flag up to that algorithm. Maybe they'll honor your bet, but maybe they won't. First of all, they probably won't even honor that bet. But even if they do honor that bet, now, yes, okay, you made a great bet, you got a plus 300 and minus 300, but you are risking your account being banned in the future because now the bookmakers are looking at you. This guy's tried to take advantage of us, and the bookmakers, they hold grudges, man. Let me tell you that now. I've been there many times where I've bet on inaccurate lines, error lines, stale lines. I've bet on, you know, big bets at the open of my account period. All of this is coming from my 15 years of betting on sports, 15-year knowledge. I ain't just pulling that out of my arse or something that I've read on an article or watched a YouTube video on. This is all based on my experience. And let me tell you now, I've bet on error lines before. And when you do that, a magnifying glass is placed on your account straight away. This entire video is trying to get the magnifying glass away from your account. And the only way you can do that is to signify you're a square gambler. So if you're betting on a wildly error line, and it's so obvious that the line is made as an error, why would you even risk why would you risk it? Yes, okay, the bet might hit and you might earn a bit of money in this one specific iteration. But is it really worth having your account limited earlier for this one amount of money that you're gonna get? Probably not, right? And if you stand to win a lot of money, then it would be worth it, right? If you could win 50 grand from this one error, then it would be worth it. But let me tell you now, if they've placed a plus 300 instead of minus 300, and you've put enough money on it to win 50 grand, right? You've put 17K or whatever it would be. The bookies ain't gonna honor that shit. Let me tell you that now, right? If you place 17 grand on a plus 300 to win 50K or whatever it is, the bookmakers are not going to honor that. There's no way, right? If you place $20 on it, maybe they honor it. But there's not even no point in risking it, right? If I see an error line, these people send me error lines, right? Because I have social media presence. I've got a lot of followers over all social media accounts. People will literally DM me almost every week. Oh, look at this, is an error that this bookie made. I will look at it and I'll go, yeah, I ain't betting on that. All right, this is a great error. I'd love to get this fighter or this prop at this price. This would be amazing. This would be like a home run type shit. But I know that the bookmakers have just made an error and I don't want to flag up to that bookmaker. I want to stay under the radar, man. I will literally pass on $20,000 just to potentially stay under the radar if I think I have a good account. $20,000 is nothing to me versus a golden account. Because like I said, I've had betting accounts in the past where I can place $20,000 on a shitty prop market with probably lower liquidity than $20,000 market wide in it early in the week because the bookmakers think I'm square and they think I'm gonna lose the money, so they let me bet. I would do anything for those accounts. Literally, like those accounts are worth, they're gold dust, right? So yeah, it's just not worth risking it. So, you know, those are the things I mentioned. There are other There are other ways to avoid your account being limited. I mean, this video's already gone on for like close to 30 minutes now. So I don't want to keep on. I don't want this video to be an hour video. I'll make a part 2 to this video. Maybe I'll make a part 3. I could literally speak about this for hours because there's many, many different ways to avoid getting limited. There's also many different techniques that may or may not work on certain bookies, but will on others, etc., etc. But yeah, these are the most important things. I think the biggest take home for you is obviously these techniques here, but the biggest take home for you is that we always want to be looking like we're squares, right? And not sharps. And the opening account period, the days and weeks following your account opening is by far the most important time period. That's when you really have to be disciplined and not do anything stupid. And also it's the time where you can show to the bookmakers that you are square. And the third take home would be that having an account that allows you to place a lot of money is absolute gold dust in this game. Like I said, these accounts are traded very regularly every day for a lot of money, right? It's not legal to trade them. I've never bought an account. I never will buy an account. I've never sold an account, etc., etc., etc. You know the game with all of that, right? But that does happen, and that happens for a reason. So I know it might be tempting to not do any of this. Like, it might not be, it's tempting to not chase your losses. It's tempting to not bet big parlays. It's tempting to bet on error lines, but I'm telling you that the longer you go in this game, the more and more you are gonna need outs. The more and more you're gonna need accounts. And if you have an account that allows you to do what you want, or close to it, or place large sums of money, you can't get anything better in this game than that account. So be careful with your accounts. Treat them like a business. Don't treat them willy-nilly like you want to do anything on them. Always try and come across like you're square, and that's it. I'll make a part 2 to this video. If you've got any questions specifically, ask me in the comments below. And if you want to know anything specifically about avoiding getting banned by the bookmakers, or anything you want me to speak on in part 2, then tell me, ask me in the comments below, and I will follow requests and I will make more videos about this. So hopefully this helps you fellas. Good luck on your bets.